The self-unconscious, authoritarian past tense, straight linear cause-effect, oxygen supply-demand, bourgeois realist plot in my beginning is my middle England ever after revenge narrative, planetary extinction with farm views cul-de-sac, tabloid newspaper, reported that Mrs. White was being killed off as no longer relevant by the makers of the great detective game Cluedo. In the Brexit lockdown fever dream years that followed, I imagined a classic Cluedo murder at folklore-haunted Cock Hall in the fictional Norfolk village of Little England in the Styx, in which the serial murders of Dr. Black, Cock Robin, aka Squire Peacock of Cock Hall, and Captain Hastings are crypto-investigated by Hercule Poirot, Jane Marple, local DCI Ken Hill, and undercover CIA agents Frank and Mark Adams, government contracted on a private number. But with a coup d'etat counterplot against this narrative, led by Trumpian entrepreneur Colonel Mustard and his foxy newscaster retired superhead Dick Sparrow, asserting that the real victim is Mrs. White. For the first time, this talking head comic novel in verse, which thousands have watched performed by heart as 9 separate episodes on TikTok, recorded through 2023, is available here on YouTube in one complete New Year blockbuster. These are my final and farewell performances of each chapter, from crime scene to reveal and resolution. So, for one last time, one last Norfolk Noir, one last Christie meets Cluedo in Norfolk.
Who killed Cock Robin? I said the sparrow with my bow and arrow. I killed Cock Robin. Who saw him die? I said the fly with my little beady eye. I saw him die. Who caught his blood? I said the fish with my little dish. I caught his blood. Who made the shroud?
I said the beetle.
I said the beetle with my thread and needle. I'll make the shroud.
With my thread and needle.
Who'll dig his grave? I said the owl with my pick and shovel. I'll dig his grave. All the birds of the air were a sighing and a sobbing when they heard of the death of poor Cock Robin. Of poor Cock Robin.
Squire Peacock lounges over the white marble floor. No rope round his neck, no knife in his back, no candlestick pestling his little grey cells. Just the world in a virus, a corona attack. All the Wannanobs flocked to Cock Hall last night, snob noshing beneath feudal chandeliers, watching cavalier points under courtesies, fees fiancéed, fillies fielded, finance, fences, feudings, fears. Now as still as his statues, their host lies dead, his white palace frozen, and under a cloud his Olympian cut diamond snow queen is caught, Clytemnestra clutching a red-handed shroud. D.I. Ken Hill. D.S. Len Wade. In conservatory with the masks, bag up the hanky. If you're on there, we'll find you. But one dropped it on Argos, no, Iceland, with one's lover. He was picked up last night. With your diamonds. In China. Lady Peacock protests to Chief Constable Melton. Why would I murder the last of the Peacocks? He's the father of half of my children, she snorts. My cock, lock and stock. Sniffs. My rocks, chocks and frocks. Mrs. White, the housekeeper, pure as driven snow, blockading the mistress from these lowlifes, steps up. Ditch the Peacock Ovan, box the snob side of Brexit, and keep all these doors to the outside shut. Old Iceni crime scenes and Welsh caravans, hurtling east on Celtic routes to Little England in the Styx. The ancestral Cock Rebens on annual vacation, confusing old Cock Hall with heritage Cockley Cly. Through a transport of isolated bacterial cultures going west, carrying the murder hanky. Not to mention postmodern postman Pat's bright red van. Its owner arrested by a masked private plod for letterboxing 658 separate properties. And 2 meters up Mrs. White's elephant SUV rear, stockpiled with shopping while the NHS serves on empty. Topped with a thick souvenir edition of the daily authoritarian past tense, straight linear cause effect, oxygen supply demand, bourgeois realist plot, in my beginning is my Middle England ever after revenge narrative, with the story of Mrs. White's extinction replacement by Dr. Orchid, Dr. Black's secret daughter. And hitting a self-serving fox in Diva's DJ, jeering in from the hard right down the middle of the road to upstage Mrs. White's Extinction Rebellion, biting the empty hands of those that don't feed it, snarling, who'd want to sniff that orchid? I thank you. And barking about national health servants who need applauding just to do their jobs. Block the Boudica Trail up the B666. This ain't the road to Llanfairpwll, Gwyngill, Quirndrob, Gogerry, Llantysilio, Gogogog. This is the road to Dis. The brown lady appears with a headless Dr. Black. Are you seeing ghosts, milady, or old sins coming back? Snow White takes them out in a panic attack. Not part of the culture. Not part of the pack.
Dr. Black was murdered. I knew I'd be next. There is a society. Black wrote it. I ran it. My Eden, his word plot, until Eve let the Colonel in. Mustard's speechless rage counterplotters killed Black to kill the vision. Killed me for its Kenning Hall, its Saxon foundation, Civil War change of hands, its New Age victory diggers for Boudica's grave gone west. Her wild La Mer chariot rained like a drop into timeless ocean,
clocked in Roman figures. My belt on Boudicca's grave, hence the diggers can't find it, Roman floored, Saxon earthed, Viking treasured, Norman dungeoned, priory rubbled, black corpse cellared, mad wife atticked, heritage theme parked, ancestral seat of Little England. It's Camelot spooked room 101A, filled with death kites from China. It's Dorothy Walpole Townsend, wig-brown ladies, disembody of a sunset on a huge pink map, dishonouring its debts in the East and West Indies. Its growing reputation as the nest of a Robin Hood, gone green on growth, employment, health, social justice, and of a Walpole lending world colossus perspective to Mustard's private eye-zations, his pygmy empires in the Styxes. Supermarket law of bourgeois realist plod slams my casket, cracks the case, deaf to my howlings from beyond the grave, blind to Ken Hill's hidden depths of Celtic gold, and looking in all the wrong places for a motive. Arthurian Ladywell flood rocks out in the Styx, and freezing crossroad crews of immigrant field slaves feeding credit crunch into inflated bankers. Behind Mrs. White, private mask off, blowing away the cobwebs 20 people carrier miles from lockdown along Mustard's golden guinea sands into the public's face. Behind Joyce, Dr. Black's typist singing A Blackmore Born in Barbary by William Bloke. Behind the Cluedo a Ouija board, late for a meeting, securing a pale horse crime scene that's already bolted, past a testing kit convoy that isn't there, and a police video surveillance unit chasing a missed apocalypse call around the bend, where Britannia's unruly suitors unsuitably rule us into the long right arm of the law, waving its amputated left. Stop! You are surrounded by one armed police. Block the Boudicca Trail up the B666. This ain't the road to the Holy Grail. This is the road to Dis. The brown lady appears with a headless Dr. Black. You built this pile on African slaves. Give it back. Snow White takes them out in a panic attack. Not part of the culture. Not part of the pack.
Boss, we need this result. All the lounge billiard ballrooms, all the hounds on the Beeston Daily Mail, all the Sculthorpes and Death Creeks of self-isolation will cue our coronas to cock if we fail. Have a night off in Lynn with the neighbourhood watch. Catch the best show in town on their CCTV. Watch the Linnets. Relax. CC's brought in two of his own.
Old Agatha Christie from ACOCD. We are the Freud squad, n'est-ce pas? Bows old Hercule to Jane. She drops a pearled stitch and smooths her church lace, jumpy as a poulter in Geist. Oh, indeed. Cock Hall, like Hell Hall, is a very lonely place. And the chaos of flower beds, imbecile that I am, my ideas as deranged as PC Plot's rouge-stained collar. There's an ache in my brain, and a fire in my heart, coughs Jane. Of what does that remind me, I wonder? His grey cells detain her woodland nymph foot in a slender Paris shoe that mounts a soft stare of Victorian passion through 7 dropped veils. L'amour à la mode, achou, avant la Grande Guerre. An Herculean stud, exploding from tight city truths, hit smartly the small of Miss Marple's back. J'ai désolé, c'est le crime de passion, ça. But she's hooked. 2 eyes, hers answer, to follow the murderer's tack. Old Roman remains, and self-Brexit car jams, jarring up the road through Little England in the Styx, jerkily misdirected around the ruins of Jerusalem, Dr. Black's visionary folly, originally a chapel, since the death of the author, a shrine, and after serial deconstruction, a pocket-sized pastiche of postmodern style's holiday home. For Mrs. White's beached whale SUV, parked outside her fridge and TV, to save her the trouble of having to waddle and closing
all public roads to the sea.
By California Dried, matinee private idol CIA agents Frank and Mark Adams, filming midwinter murders. Thought for the Day with Private Fraser, we're all doomed! And an episode of Top Cat, where he gets his own back on the world for not liking me, with the President of the United States. Block the Boudica Trail up the B666. This ain't the road to la Dolce Vita in Paradiso Elysium. This is the road to this. The brown lady appears with a headless Dr. Black. Tarot card Britons facing forward and back. Snow White takes them out in a panic attack. Not part of the culture. Not part of the pack. In a waking dream of unburied murder, Christie's Argus eyes descend to the gun room below. After all the tall stories and ivory towers at the base of the noble mind, here we know. The viral Prof Plum has Scarlet software on his hard drive. In your What Happens Next, Who Done It Waits Upon, I would. Your class is the village's vampire, my child. The dead past sucking the rosy future's blood. Now your father lies slain in a corona of thorns, evil future injected in God's old lead money veins. Play their Roman church candle shtick Fall Guy, and boom! Nothing on earth to lose but your chains.
All those grey, blue-rinsed white lies they told me, Aunt Jane, for that ethical farmer so reverend green, just to ravish Dad's blood-watered crops, not me. Plumsky's deep-frozen spirit was never so mean.
But his young man's fevered dream, in his old man's fevered crown, through your guilt, Poirot cries, is controlling your brain.
Life is evil, made do.
Made old, you old maid, sobs the prof.
Or made good. Be the star of her fallen morning. Pleads Jane.
Prof remembers that spring, atop the Winter Palace.
The warm youth he was, she has now and then. To save her young heart,
he blows out his brains.
Poirot ducks. Marple sighs. An heroic, unhappy, almost English, dead end. Old Saxon boneyards and island nations sand-rammed, white builders' vanmans behind a fallen apple tree. Not to mention postmodern postman Pat in a moonstone bright ghost office delivery juggernaut for Mrs. Self Island White. In herself unconscious, authoritarian, past tense, daily dismal newspaper that hates Britain's show home, straight linear cause effect, oxygen supply demand, semi-detached bourgeois realist plot, in my beginning is my Middle England ever after revenge narrative, planetary extinction with farm views cul-de-sac. Of Argos ventilators, Amazon vaccines, gowns and masks from China, a morgue suite from Iceland, and a private hospice the size of a small town from bathware, kitchen and hall, behind a rather remote doctor to whom she just gave her symptoms. Being tracked 30 miles out of Washport, Lee Harvey Oswald Drive, by the cyber troll screaming, "Who done it? He carried it here in his TARDIS. He's a nasty man." We all done it, says Ken Hill.
No, knows Poirot. We are all the murderer, and we are all the victim. Away. But the self-isolation in the public spirit and the self-isolation of the self-interest are not at all the same. There is one here who murders society itself, who is not at all the good bourgeois he appears in his Chelsea blue shirts and his boots of Bahrain, and his missing,
mend and make, do and dye PPE kits of Little England in the Styx, which never came. He is to blame, as the coroner will explain. He is the Cain! Or she, coughs Jane. Block the Boudica Trail up the B666. This ain't the road to Midsummer Maidens in the taverns next the woods. This is the road to Dears. The brown lady appears with a headless Dr. Black. She's rather late with all the traffic. She's speaking through the flak. Krishna's eyes in your peacock tail. Give them back. Snow White takes them out in a panic attack.
Little England is the world. We're all together
Not
in
part
this.
of the culture.
Don't go to work. Don't
Not
go to
part
school.
of the pack.
Stay in your homes.
Keep the
To me.
From the council estates to the posh ones with parks, from high fashion and high finance to its slave kids in the dark, from the centre of the cosmos to Little England in the Styx, from the heart of Little England to each human breath's limits.
The government is considering a range of measures. That's my air you're breathing. Which may help with the spread of the coronavirus.
The world has come to Little England in the Styx. Little England is the world. We're all together in this. Except we have no masks. We shut down too late. We didn't quarantine. We didn't track and trace.
Don't go to work. Don't go to school. Stay in your homes. Keep the 2-meter rule.
Come and heal us with your caring. Then go back where you came. You're not from around here.
We don't know your name.
Blitzing Brits for Blighty as the beast from the east spits his Cold War into Salisbury. Then we go off-piste. Cobbett's knee in the throat of your healer and your bro. In this world war for survival, every ally is your foe.
Don't go to work. Don't go to school. Stay in your homes. Keep the 2-meter rule. From the poles to the equator. Supermoon into eclipse. From the fields to the deserts.
Temperate zone, driven by no kind of need except greed is good. Keeping the wheels of capitalism and coronavirus turning, the trottering good of society is up to the individual, not the state. How we risk our bodies and those of our neighbours and colleagues until we need the NHS, the BBC, the RAF to save our little island of alien nation.
The world has come to Little England in the Styx. Little England is the world. We're all together in this.
Except we got no kids.
We shut down too late. We didn't quarantine. We didn't track and trace. We didn't take the test. Now we're top of death's class. Lord Hee-Haw dressed as Churchill. We are such a city. Such
A city. Be alert.
The world has come to Little England in the Styx.
After life's chokes and splutters, the squire sleeps well. Mustard's unconscious death wish to be squire can't stop him. But the Christie slams shut, and England's unsolved, not coughing in its sleep, more asleep in its coffin. Dick Sparrow, a superhead in the clouds of undoing, out of office all hours, baton slick, born to run, guards the van of a new charge, retraining the house guides in heritage homicide, midwinter murders, holiday fun. It's political correctness gone mad, trumps the Colonel, as his bust of Dr. Black is burned. That pipe lip, it's an original colonial design. Norman, you are political incorrectness gone mad, says Miss Scarlet. Your Auschwitz, your omniscient Nazi counterplot with private alibi would remove PC plot and lady suspects from his scene to your kitchen bedroom. Wipe your hand from the blade on the feather. Unbreakably frame, black for Dad, brown for Plum, and petrol tank Jack Green. The Colonel's private market force glides over from Burnham in a fleet of Chelsea tractors, each the size of his mother's hearse, as Eve falls. Private wealth cushioned against the potholes to the common, where a cold cougher pinches his private purse. When my Vikings scythed Black's head off at your Norfolk Noir launch of his privatisation, and the murder most foul of one nation Britain, I solved the death of that author, but his ghost possesses the hall. Damn his black bestseller soul. Old Viking murders and self-escape yachts, through titanic migrant waters, spilling undead Rule Britannia landslides of beached red herring, yanked out of the frying pan of Europe into a Twin Tower safety burger to take out live Far Eastern markets and kit-supplied Far Eastern science from these global virus-conquered Nelson victory lanes by undercover 2020 vision commie chefs Frank and Mark Adams, government contracted on a private number. You're a marked man, Frank. You're a frank man, Mark. Behind the black shook headline hellhound of the Baskerville Telegraph, chasing a wild goose. A big game bargain hunter in a mask, shooting 30 miles up to a Lidl in another town, in a top-of-the-range Rover, clapping the NHS out of one window, taxing its leave to remain out the other. Driven by no kind of need except greed is good, keeping the wheels of capitalism and coronavirus turning, chuntering, there is no society. It's up to the individual, not the state, how we risk our bodies and those of our neighbours and colleagues until we need the NHS, the BBC, the RAF, to save our little island of alien nation. Block the Boudica Trail up the B666. This ain't the road to Valhalla on the haystacks in the havens next the sea. This is the road to Dis. The brown lady appears with a headless Dr. Black. Ghosts of an empire Colonel Mustard wants back. Snow White takes them out in a panic attack. Not part of the culture. Not part of the pack. I'm snowed in at the King's Head by holiday homers who park 3 4x4s each in lanes built for the horse, and a Berlin Wall roadworks winter-timed by the council to suit this public house. Not the public, of course. It can't be Scarlet, though she neighed the squire her daddy and his bridal nomination. She loved them both, serenely. Her flirtation with the prof was just a lovely filly's folly, with an NHS underbed red, a free and PP easy. Nor royalist Lady Peacock, though she dissed the squire her hubby, agreeing their daughter's union with radical Green Jack. Well, we know who wore the jodhpurs in the Peacock marriage. No need to kill a spouse she could whip to dis. And back. Nor the Colonel, with his NASA-splintered one-eye Eden glass and private fly that saw him die for Eve's attention since Eton. Private selfies on the Oedipus trail, rewarded then as now with Abel's caning and that private after healthcare with matron. Not on our NHS, but hawks in bright crack-papering bills, all for some for all, no future, no vaccines, no antibiotics. But why we need an implant and a whitening root canal and all the latest bargains in surgical cosmetics. Nor black and brown, whose looks couldn't murder in a library from which they'd been expired. Nor Jack, the public green, in a scarlet study. He gave me his old school word. And so, beyond our D.I. Ken, a last trump over Poirot, it can only have been old Civil War siege works, and laughing cavalier, one-eyed, lockdown-breaking, good King Charles history pub tours sponsored by Specsavers. Should have gone to Oedipus. 20/20 vision, double cross, four-eyed, by California dried, Kentucky fried, CIA agents Frank and Mark Adams. Government contracted on a private number. You're a marked man, Frank. You're a frank man, Mark. Staking out a lost castle of perseverance in an angel wing mirror cracked from side to side between the word on the street and a Marlowe hip pocket vision of the bay. It's a paradise lost. Desdemona fig leaves and Freudian slips hung out to dry on the new line between the public and the private eye. still working. The first murder case. From dawn to dewy eve, like forever. Because we done it. Mark? You mean like Oedipus, Frank? No! Oedipus is all right if you like modern. I mean like Cain. Mark? Grave gridlocked. Behind a coffin cul-de-sac. Parallel Nosy Parker. In a white elephant SUV with out-of-real estate plates. Block the Boudica Trail up the B666. This ain't the road to a new model millennium of the saints. This is the road to this. The brown lady appears with a headless Dr. Black, and an all in All Saints Commonwealth, plain English Jill and Jack. Snow White takes them out in a Proud Boy panic attack. Not part of the culture. Not part of the pack. There's been another murder. Overarks the superhead in the dug-up Saxon boneyard. Then sees the graves for real. Captain Hastings in the trench. A Norman arrow through his eye. Ghost written there by Mustard as the Squire, who cuts this deal. I'm your born to be General Mustard, and life's dealt me a loaded hand. You can put your mortgage, children's centre, white and blue shirt on me. You can bonk on another Mayfair heist, another Grenville hotel. A neoliberal murder case, unleashing my land of the free. To Trump as one. Mrs. White, too loud, builds a great wall around China. Send all the corona-sick yellow bellies, owlish Gretas, fires, bugs, rains, foreign bodies, nasty reporters, locust floods, hurricanes. You want fries with that vaccine? Back where the virus came. Mustard's holiday hearths with Chef Gammon White, the new kings of Cock Hall, will keep all our outlets open, all our inlets closed. Together we can carpet bomb the pinko out of this commie corona with our hypervenal, market-leading, privateer overdose. Comme les généraux de ma pauvre Capitaine Hastings à la Somme. Your private eye is too narrow. A troll's blind glare at the sun cries green eyes, glowing. Game's up, General. Come into Mummy for supper, pleads Jane. No! Let's get this murder done! Stop. The text. We arrest this minimalist counterplot against who killed Cock Robin for asset strip unsolving the Excalibur brand of Britain. Trungeon's PC plot. WPC plot. No account for the cat what killed him, could be so far behind the lines, so blindly underwritten. First World War aerodrome man shells, zombieing back from the front, to be blown up the ammo box stairwells of their safe Biliati homes, and a 10-seater one-man bandwagon right up its own arse. Behind, a stopcat accelerated through an ambulance and out the back of a marked for life school bus, undertaking the middle of the road to conduct Scheidt's Symphony No. 2 in D-Trump major, with a riot gun and a bottle of thick bleach, and a big white lie to cancel every reckoning. Round the bend of Toilet Creek, down the freeway to hell, mouth first, I will make you fishers of men, world sellers. That's fishers with a PH, and PH without the science. If you follow me, 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 to the end of the world. No, thank you, says Frank. No, thank you, says Mark. Block the Boudica Trail up the B666. This ain't the road to a new Jerusalem without the walls of Gaza. This is the road to this. The brown lady appears with a headless Dr. Black, and the brave new world of the young, which no wall can redact. Snow White takes them out in a panic attack. Not part of culture. Not part of pack.
Who'll be the parson? I said the rook with my little book. I'll be the parson. Who'll be the clock? I said the lark, if it's not too dark. I'll be the clock. Who'll carry the link? I said the lid, I will fetch it in a minute. I'll carry the link. Who'll be chief mourner? I said the dove, I mourn for my love. I'll be chief mourner. Who'll carry the coffin? I said the kite, if it's not through the night. I'll carry the coffin. All the birds of the air were a sighing and a sobbing when they heard of the death of poor Cock Robin, of poor Cock Robin.
Colonel Mustard, in the dining room, with smoking revolver, asks where any secret passage to happiness is. There's no way out, sighs Eve, Lady Peacock. No four-cornered flights from this Cluedo Ouija board. Just the night train to Dis. Dis appears. The plot convenes. Its Argus vision pans. We indict in every room with every weapon. The Snow Queen of Has-Beens. The Black and Cock Robin. Breakfast cereal murdering. Mrs. White. I had to bleach the ass of all the blacks, browns and greens. You're not Lady Peacock. Mustard tears off her face mask. What have you done with my Lady P? I am her, and shall forever be England as it is in heritage. Your Lady Daily Mail, your buried Hastings, your mustard-serving cod psycho private eye surviving. Your me. Marry me. Mrs. White is marched away, and winter goes with her. Spring is back on the menu, multicoloured and diverse. Dis approves, as Jack Green is betrothed to Miss Scarlet. Disagrees, as Poirot blossoms, and a Primrose Jane demurs. Dis entangles the brown lady, reveals Parvati Proserpina in a ghost of Turnip Townsend wife disguise. Dr. Black blows his trumpet. England's foundations rock. Green eyes dances blue eyes into the sunrise.
Raised Stone Age axings, raised Bronze Age murder barrows, raised Iron Age deathworks, and Plastic Age illiterate banner capitals get my own back against the world private enterprise plague wagons. That's my name on there. Bumper carring, a nose trust Eve Lady Peacock in a broken ambulance, accelerated to a standstill, refusing Colonel Mustard's deathbed proposal of a public stage for our private parts. Undertaken by a hearse full of burnt plum red herring, overtaken by a Hell's Angel, bat released from lockdown, cresting the hill above Happy Valley on one wheel, blowing the last trump. The human race is over. America finished first. Boy racing, chlorinated CIA agent Frank and Mark Adam. To be Frank Mark, with a marked Frank and a Frank Mark, were plucked. To be Mark Frank, with a Frank Mark and a marked Frank, were behind Dick Sparrow, spotted on a mobile, serially murdering Squire Peacock's reputation in the Daily Mall. Cancelling culture from the curriculum. Delete Who Killed Cock Robin. Insert advert studies for Colonel Mustard's businesses. Delete Crack the Class Ceiling. Insert the striving for competence Market Brand Academy, which he's turned around. Now the third best sponsored numbschool in Dissonsea South. Spinning Sunset West down a progress listing poster. Delete literature, insert Tom Jones Fielding. Pupil self-assessed, good writing and spieling. How animals ruined poor Mr. Jones' Fram. Serially overtaking himself, overtaking the long, slow coach to Dis. Down a diversion marked, "This ain't the road to Hell Houghton. This is the road to Flood. Arc, 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 arc," into an oncoming agricultural juggernaut. Leave the Boudica Trail down the B666 to bronzed, new-aged, postmodern diggers, Jack Green and Miss Scarlet, at the altar, in the greenwood, with the bluebells. This ain't the road to Erith, that long, longing, low-griz, home grief to be elsewhere. This is the road to bliss. It's going to be all right, ejaculates Dis, as scenes from the Passion in an easterly procession line the Walsingham Way, and heavens above turn St. Mary's snowdrops through an orientation to daffodils of fire in the Grail woods around All in All Saints. Through death, Jane remembers, with poppies to love. Dis ceases, frees Parvati and the head of Dr. Black, as Little England's shell starts to crack. Its self-isolation, its Dracula virus attack, re-identified with the all-in-all, re-identified with the anti-Drac. Who gives the lifeblood back? Love rolls the die. His dying roll, his ace, king, queen, and jack, all part of the culture, all in all of the pack. That was the farewell and final performance from Who Killed Cock Robin. You can hear all 9 episodes of this Norfolk Noir Whodunit on TikTok, on Peacock's Fan 5, or you can watch the complete sequence as a box set on YouTube, Peacock's Tale Folk Indie Duo. Thanks for watching. Happy New Humanity.
Dis ceases, frees Parvati and the head of Dr. Black, as Little England's shell starts to crack. Its self-isolation, its Dracula virus attack, re-identified with the anti-Drac. Who gives the lifeblood back? Love rolls the die, his dying roll, his ace, king, queen, and jack, all part of the culture, all in all of the pack.